stars tonight. Fields grow anew with the spring of life. In this sheath of truth will I wrap myself tight. The landscape, it goes for miles. The myths of old, they breathe in me life.
Okay, question from Mary Fabian. What is your opinion of the real meaning of the Egyptian Ankh? Why do they always have this cross in their hands? I mentioned this in the Atlantis book and also the Atlantis program. If you go to unslaved.com, you'll see the program, Atlantis, Alien Visitation, Genetic Manipulation, or pick up the Kindle book on Amazon. In my opinion, I think that it's an indication of Anunnaki, that the word Ankh is partly a clever play and maybe just a direct reference, actually. Those syllables, all ancient languages only use syllables. The vowels were kept for the secret, the priesthood, who kept the secrets of the correct pronunciation of words. Now this is the case actually for Hebrew, Greek, Latin, and other languages. But especially Hebrew, which is often put forth as a magical language, one of these magical languages. And as far as I know, it's also the same for Egyptian. If you want to really find out about the Egyptian language, then pick up any of the books by Mustafa Gadala, especially Historical Deception. Very, very important book that I refer to a lot in my work. But when it comes to the symbol, that's often called the symbol of life or whatever, and you often see it being held to the pharaoh's lips as if, or just under the nose, so it could relate to the breath of life. But I have a feeling that it's actually connected to An, which is heaven, and Ki is earth, An-Ki. So it's those who connect heaven and earth. Or in other words, that man, right, i.e. the God who's holding the Ankh, is a being that is both heavenly and earthly. This also connects to the serpents because, of course, the Ankh or the Anunnaki is a reference. Anunnage is another word where it comes from, represents a heavenly serpent. So there's all the serpent symbolism involved. The serpent symbol is all over Egypt. It's a far more important symbol than the Ankh, actually, if you really get into it. It's the serpent that is the thing that needs to be studied. But the Ankh is a very similar symbol in a way, and it just represents that the gods are both human, right, and divine. When Osiris's body was cut up into, people have different traditions, but 14 pieces or whatever you have, the phallic 15th piece was missing. When Isis went looking for it, she couldn't find it, and so made the phallic, the new phallus, out of gold. That's a long-winded way of saying that the phallus is alien. Gold is a symbol of the Anunnaki and the fallen ones, the fallen angels. It's the heavenly part of us. Right, the godly part of us. So Horus is the golden child, born of the phallus, right? Because she mated, Isis mates with her husband to get Horus after he's dead. A little bit of necromancy thrown in there. Well, that makes a good drama. But the phallic member is gold, so it's Horus is the progeny of the golden ones, the heavenly ones, the off-world beings, and he's part human, right? So the Ankh, basically, in my opinion, serves the same purpose. Manuel, he's asking, it's been on my mind for a while and keeps popping up, but unfortunately, ultimately, the 12 helpers in religion and the 12 hours of the day that help the sun bring light to the world. What do you think of this? Well, I went into this very deeply in astrotheology. This is a book, not so a program, so again, head over to Unslaved to watch the program or go to Amazon to get the book. That book's an encyclopedia of sidereal mythology, focusing on the 12. If you go to taroscopes.com, my other website, watch the Tarot introductory series of videos, you'll hear reference about 12 in a very different and unusual way. I really hope that you'll watch that series because it goes into the number 7 and the number 12. They're both connected. 4 times 3 is 12, 4 plus 3 is 7, so 7 and 12 are connected. And it has a great deal to do with why there were so many pantheons with 12 in it. 12 something something in it. 12 trials of Hercules, all that. 12 sons of whoever, and, the 12 tribes of Israel, 12 tribes of the Jews, and so many other applications. But the most important one being it's obviously connected to astrotheology and the stars. We have reduced that to what we call the clock. The 12 hours of day and the 12 hours of night represent the 12 stages of the underworld and the 12 stages of the overworld, this kind of thing, you see. So we have right on our wrists and right on our wall something that has enormous meaning that we've sort of just mundanified. We've created just a mundane, but it's an archetype nevertheless. And we're anytime we find ourselves enslaved, it's actually an archetype is somewhere involved in that enslavement. You can't get enslaved with something that's just mundane. Something can't command your attention, your ardor, your belief, your spiritual worship, veneration, unless it has something spiritual behind it, something archetypal behind it. And so the number 12 is one of those numbers that needs to be unpacked. Jesus isn't just, it's not just Jesus on a cross on Skull Hill. It's 3 crosses. Well, it's 3 fours, that's 12. What's going on here? So David, you're asking, what are your thoughts about the dragon family? We've gone into that in the Atlantis book and program, the dragon family, the dragon brotherhood. I've gone into it a lot in the Irish Origins of Civilization program. You can find that on unslaved.com. Not to be confused with Occult History of Ireland. Those films are connected, of course, but one is much more lengthy and in depth. It's the program associated with my book, Irish Origins of Civilization, and the Occult History of Ireland is a little bit different take, honing in on a different level of perspective. Ultimately, you should watch, all of them, both of them. But go to the Irish Origins of Civilization program first. We've got a lot to say on the dragon bloodline. Again, it's just a term. It's not that they are dragons. It's not that they are reptilians. It's just a term that deals with a certain kind of knowledge, a certain kind of bloodline, a certain kind of priestly quality, And in the female Illuminati, we'll be looking at it again from even another perspective. Always turning this Rubik's Cube around even more. But the Dragon Court, the Dragon Brotherhood, an immensely ancient secret order or priesthood that pharaohs belonged to, that the nobility of the world belonged to. That's why it keeps turning up on the flags. Sometimes it's a lion, but it's a lion styled like a dragon. They play on the symbol as well, don't forget. You got it on banks. You got it on heraldry. You got it on corporate logos. You've got it on cars like Peugeot. Right? You've got the symbol on decals of every conceivable description, And it turns up in cartoons for kids and movies and all sorts of things. So my work is very much based, I believe this is a very legitimate group that exists, and that the dragon symbolism has been used by criminal societies as well, like the triads and others, for a purpose, for a reason. There's the 5-clawed dragon, there's a 3-clawed dragon. They're using symbolism all across the board there. And there's the friendly dragon as well, like you see in these Chinese New Year's processions where they bring the big dragon out, right? That's Draco. Draco, the friendly dragon. So it could be that the dragon families actually date from a positive group of people. It became sinister later on, or maybe there's always been 2 groups running parallel. It doesn't really matter which one of those is true. This is the way it is. So there's the benign dragon, the friendly dragon, the good dragon, Agatho Daimon, originally known as Draco. This is one of the theories I use in the Irish Origins a lot, because it's the theme that connects the West to the East. In the Aryan cultures of the Northwest, in Ireland, they were called Naddreds, or Ganadir. That means serpent. Well, down in Egypt, right, with the Messiahs, the Messiah means the fat of the Nile dragon, which is the crocodile. This was used to anoint the pharaohs and the noble ones. They wore the serpent on their foreheads. We got serpents coming out of everywhere. North, east, northwest, and east. And in terms of priests and kings. They say that belts were first worn by Druids. That's what a belt is. That's what the Order of the Garter is. All of these knightly societies use the belt. Just like you see in the first card of the tarot card, the magician, he's wearing the dragon belt. Because Druids wore that belt. That was one of their insignias. The belt that the Druid wore. That now turns up in military costumes and uniforms and in other regalia as well. And turned up in Egypt as the uraeus headdress. The Messiah oil, the chrism, which was used to anoint a priest, you see, a holy one. And then you have the Druids calling themselves the Nadreds, or the Ganadir. It's all serpent symbolism, but the fact that it's found at these antipodes of the world means that those groups were united, period. We need to start getting with that idea. If you interviewed a detective, a criminologist, they will say that nine times out of 10 their work is to constantly review everything that comes in front of them, to reconfigure it like a Rubik's Cube, turn it over, turn it inside out. And I have this exact same methodology because we're on the trail of the darkest figures. An ordinary detective wouldn't even know how to get in the starting line of the people that we're investigating, the beings we're investigating, the histories we're investigating. And so it's essential that you are because it's like this, either you outfox them, either you stand on the white squares of knowledge or they will stand on it and they'll outfox you. It's absolute combat situation. We're in the trenches. And therefore the general needs to not just be sending men over the top to be slaughtered. We've got to find infinite subtle strategies. You've got to know thine enemy. You've got to have the picture of your enemy on the wall at all times. Be thinking, sleeping, and investigating, making your mind almost think in criminal terms, which the great detectives do, in order to have the scent of your enemy. And that's what my work is about. So it's never going to be stagnant. It's always going to be following this predator. Sometimes their footprints look like they're walking forward. Sometimes they've turned their shoes around and walking backwards. These are people who've been hiding their identity for centuries. They're really good at what they do. And so I hope that, my work inspires people to not just learn the facts and then shut down and say, well, I got the gist of that then. That's the end of that. It's the Jews, it's the Jesuits, it's the Masons, end of story. You've got to be kidding. That's just scratching the surface. Let's go on further and further and further. And of course, there's only certain people with an intrepid nature can do that. A lot of people just simply shut down, know a few sound bites, and then that's it for them, Yeah. But as far as my work goes, that's not going to cut it. Thousands of years, women held the grail of spirituality for the whole planet, may have invented some of the architecture of what we call civilization. Not that most men have ever wrote about it or accepted it, but it's a fact. And should our civilization start to melt down, who's going to be there to give, mankind, so to speak, any kind of hope to build anew?